Tayshia Adams reveals Colton Underwood was not always himself while filming The Bachelor. Hey guys, welcome to another shared news from home. We have got to talk about everything Tayshia had to say on Colton's season. But before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. Colton's recent tell-all obviously shocked Bachelor Nation. There has truly been so much to discuss. And now our very own Tayshia, former Bachelorette, and of course, runner-up of Colton's season, is sort of sharing her reactions, reflecting on her time with him on her new podcast episode. So let's get into everything she had to say. First of all, she shared that, like I think a lot of us, she was a little shocked at first when she heard the news, but she said, quote, all in all, the happiness that I have for him, that he's finally able to live his truth and to be out. The sense of relief I got from his interview is something that I have to commend immensely. She said she's just so happy to be able to see him be him. So this is a sentiment that I think was shared by so many in Bachelor Nation. Obviously, Tayshia and Colton got to know each other. They've both been on different paths of late, but I would expect nothing less than this message of support from Tayshia.
Yes, absolutely. She said it perfectly, a sense of relief. I feel like anyone close to him or even viewers and obviously himself all are experiencing this sense of relief, because how can you not be happy for someone when they're finally able to be their full authentic self? He made it so clear on the Good Morning America interview that he's been battling with himself internally for pretty much his whole entire life, and now he finally gets to be free from that. You can't not support that. So she's happy for him. We're all happy for him. Happy for anyone who can be their full self finally.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so perfectly said, Avery. It has been such a journey for him to get here. He really put it all out there in this interview. And I think that whenever you see someone finally able to live not only their truth, but experience like self-love and be in such a better mental place, it is always a positive step forward. Let's go back in time a little bit, because Tayshia's co-host Joe brought up how he used to feel when watching Colton's season. He explained that he just remembers feeling like Colton was holding back as the Bachelor. And Tayshia quickly said that she fully agreed with that assessment. She reflected on her time on the show, saying being able to get to know him pretty intimately, being able to get to know him in a different way than I think a lot of people have been able to, there was always something that I couldn't get a read on with him. She felt like he wasn't always himself, and she obviously said now it makes sense. So this is really interesting because contestants and leads have a very unique relationship, right? They go through things that most of us will never go through. They experience pressures that a lot of us haven't had. I feel like even if you don't end up together, there is a bond that is established there just from such a unique shared experience. So Tayshia obviously knows Colton really well, but to hear her putting herself kind of back in time and remembering, like, this is someone she was competing to marry, yet there was a certain thing, a certain piece of him she couldn't get to. It's just really interesting to hear her reflect on that in hindsight, now that we all know what Colton's journey really looked like behind the scenes.
It is really interesting, and it makes a lot of sense, because I was even thinking the same thing when I was watching his season. It just felt like something was missing, or we needed more from him. And I just thought maybe, oh, he's just boring. But it was that intimacy factor, and it was the fact that he couldn't be his full self. He was really holding a lot back. So it now makes sense knowing what we know, but it's interesting to hear her perspective on it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, she went a step further to explain that, like, this has really helped her understand key moments of her time on the show, especially those serious conversations, moments where they were trying to go deep, picture a life together down the road. That's where she always kind of felt like they couldn't get there. She said it was always something that he would kind of put a wall up against because he couldn't fully believe that. That's not really what he wanted, obviously, right? We all know this now. And she explains it makes sense as to why he wasn't able to get there with me. So what I take away from these quotes, these sentiments of her like reflecting on the pivotal points in their time together, is obviously Tayshia's moved on, right? I mean, she's with Zach, she's happy, But the only word that's kind of coming to my mind is closure. Like it feels like there are moments that were left a little confusing or that she couldn't fully process because she just didn't know what she didn't know. And now she does. So it's an interesting thing that I'm sure a lot of his contestants are reflecting on right now.
Absolutely. It kind of just fills in all of the gaps of the unknown. I'm sure they were always wondering, what is it? What is it that's missing? Is it me? Is it him? And now they know it had nothing to do with themselves. It was all about him and himself and him figuring himself out. And he had to go on the show to kind of evolve into this. He reflected a lot from his time on there. And now, because of that experience, maybe he wouldn't have even been able to do this on Good Morning America. So it was a lesson in itself. And I think everyone was able to grow from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the moments that stood out to me the most in his interview is he apologized to the women of his season, but he also thanked them.
I just wish I wouldn't have dragged people into my own mess of figuring out who I was. I genuinely mean that. But I also, at the same time, but I can sit here and say I'm sorry to all of those women. I can also say thank you, because without them and without the Bachelor franchise, I don't know if this would have ever came out.
Everything he went through on the show, obviously there was a lot of pain going on behind the scenes. I can't even imagine what the mental toll, gymnastics he must have been doing, to get through all of this. But it did really stick out to me that he really understands that every moment in his life leading up to now was a stop on this journey. And Tayshia, the women, they were a huge part of it. So very interesting, like you said. The question I think a lot of people are asking is, does anyone regret going on the show, right? He did share that he has some regrets, especially with the way he handled, the whole process. Tayshia says, though, no. She doesn't have any regrets. She doesn't regret going on the show. She doesn't regret giving away, that chapter of her life to be a part of it. She said, the only reason I feel my time was not wasted is because he helped me come to terms with a lot of things I was dealing with. She said, when I opened up about my own problems, he was very supportive of me. He listened and made me feel better. So Tayshia looks back at our time on the show. Obviously, they didn't end up together. Obviously, she's processed that and moved on. But she doesn't regret it because it helped her at a time in her life when she needed someone who could help her in those ways. And I mean, let's face it, it led her on her entire Bachelor Nation journey. And now she is happy and in love. I am a big believer of everything happens for a reason. If I was Tayshia, I think that's what I'd be saying right now.
Oh, yes, absolutely. She would not be the Bachelorette if she didn't go on Colton's season. And she probably learned a lot from him, like she said, and he learned a lot from her. And just being in those experiences in that bubble, regardless who it is, you're going to grow and you're going to learn. And it's awesome to hear that she had him as a companion, had someone to talk to, had that in him still, even though it wasn't romantic. So at the end of the day, they both gained something out of this. And I'm just interested to hear some of the other contestants. I want to hear from Cassie, maybe her input on this. I know everyone's journey was a little different and obviously how this all ended up, but I think everyone can grow from it. And obviously Colton's in a better place now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this will not be the last contestant from his season that we hear a more in-depth reaction on, because a lot of people are probably sitting with this, processing it. I mean, you mentioned Cassie. You guys, we've talked about some of the source reports that have come out about the Cassie of it all. She hasn't posted an Instagram statement, right? As of the time Avery and I are filming this, we haven't gotten a really in-depth look as to how she's doing, how she's processing. We've discussed in other videos, obviously, the end of their relationship, there were some very serious allegations. It went to a dark place. The two of them have had to have done a lot of healing. We don't know everything that's gone on behind the scenes. So I'm totally with you, Avery. I do think in the weeks to come, we're going to be getting some more reflections from different people that have crossed paths with Colton, in Bachelor Nation. And hopefully we do get a little more insight as to where things stand with Cassie, how she's processing all of this. Because, listen, we're all in this together. We all want to know. You guys, we obviously want to know what you think of everything Tayshia had to say and what you guys feel overall as we're processing this huge Bachelor Nation news. Let us know down in the comments. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell because like I said, we're going to be keeping you updated on all things Bachelor Nation. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.